So I was contacted by a buddy of mine here within the group, and turns out somebody within the group, we won't mention any names, was having issues with these funny little things. Do we know what these are?
The bearing.
Bearings.
These are bearings on your
Yeah.
on your bandsaw guides. And so there was a person had the exact type bearing, and it was locked up, couldn't move it, and he was just going to throw them away and order some new ones. And he didn't realize that all you got to do is just take a fine blade, and you can go right in. You can pop that retaining plastic right off. And then you can drop these into a vat of acetone or kerosene or diesel. Let them sit for a couple hours. Take your air gun.
While wearing your safety glasses.
Yes.
Because you don't want that acetone spraying in your eyes.
And it will splatter.
And then, well, as long as you spray it, away from you, you're good to go. But yeah, wear your glasses and all your PPE and put your suit on and your beehive and everything like that. Make sure you do that.
Yeah.
Your personal safety is your responsibility in your shop. And then next thing you know, now you've got a bearing that spins, and you can put that back on your bandsaw.
Huh.
And so now I'm going to turn it over to my collaborator here, and he's going to talk about the other type of bearing. Scott.
So that bearing that Dane just showed you, you can take axle grease and repack that bearing. You just put a little axle grease in the palm of your hand while you got that plastic cap out, and you take that and work that around and repack that bearing and put that plastic sleeve in there. But there are some bearings you cannot clean that they call sealed bearings. The one Dane just showed you is not a sealed bearing. It's just a bearing with a dust cap on it. So this is an actual sealed bearing. It's called a cup bearing. It's actually in a cup. It's pressed in there. There's a ridge ring around the top. There's no way to clean this bearing or take it apart. Okay. This is a cap bearing. And you'll find these on some machines. So if you're like in your pulleys on your bandsaw might have, if it's old enough, it might have bearings like this. You can't clean these. You have to replace them. My bandsaw comes with bearings like this, and I don't know if you can see that real good, but it has a steel ring in it. You can't clean these either. They're not sealed, but you can't clean them. The way they press that ring in there, it's impossible to get it out without bending the living daylights out of it. You cannot get them apart. If you can see these little teeth in here, if I get it close enough to the camera, there's little teeth in here that grab this steel ring. It has a little flange on it that grab that steel ring. It's impossible to get it apart. You cannot clean these. You have to replace these too. When you order the new ones from Grizzly for your Grizzly bandsaw, they're going to come like the one Dane showed you. They've discontinued this steel top. Okay. And I think it's because you can't clean them. They get gummed up and they're done. I have one here that's gummed up. This one here no longer, whoops, that's not it. This one here no longer spins. It just clicks. So if the outside of your bearing starts to look like this, you got a problem. It's time to stop. If they're cleanable, you clean them. If they're not, it's time to order them before you burn up the bearing and lock it up. Because if you lock this up, it's going to start to spin on the spindle, on this spindle. Now you're not only buying the bearing, but you're going to rebuy that spindle that holds this bearing. You're adding more cost. So if I do a lot of cutting on my bandsaw, once a month or once every couple months, I take all these bearings off and I clean them. So I have 2 sets. I have 2 new sets so I can have one clean set, reassemble and get back going while the other set's cleaning. So it's just, and they're on everything that you have. They're on your lathe, they're on your bandsaw, they're on your table saw, they're even in your drills. If the drill starts making some funny sounds, you can take it apart and clean those bearings. I found all the cordless drills and most of the electric drills have bearings that are cleanable. So you can clean these, and you should periodically clean, especially your table saw, your lathe, and your bandsaw. You should be cleaning these bearings often because they're in such a dusty environment.
Yep.
So that's Dane and I's little collaboration. Hopefully it'll help you out. If you got questions on how to clean them, just send me an email or catch me in a meeting, and I'll be glad to show somebody how to repack them or take them apart. I do FaceTime, Zoom, whatever you want.
Makes 2 of us. Anytime.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
All right.